What's up, everybody? Welcome. We are live, and it is episode lucky number 13 of the Hardcore Casual Podcast. He is Jay of F1 Podcast fame.
Hello, everyone.
I am Mason of Radio Infamy, and we are the conversation at the That's No Moon behind you. What's up, Jay? How are you doing this Thursday night?
Well, dude, I'm extremely excited to be here tonight, as shown by my voice and intonation. I am also equal parts underneath, not to sound like Christian Bale. I am underneath, exhausted because it's been a horrific work week in my line of work as we move closer and closer to Memorial Day, which in the beer industry is the biggest holiday of the year. So it's going to be heinous and crazy.
I figured that or the 4th, one of the two.
Yeah, and I just had a bunch of those weird errands today, and it all started adding up. And I was doing my best, like my people at work. I was doing my best not to snap their heads off for no good reason. And they got to the end of the day, and they're like, "Dude, are we done?" I'm like, "Yeah, you guys can go home." And then as soon as they walked out, I'm like, "Ah!"
Then you can have your little breakdown.
Yeah. So, but it feels better now.
Well, good. Well, I'll tell you what I am, Jay. I am thankful. I am grateful. And we have been doing a lot of new things over the last couple of weeks. We have been trying some new strategies. We've been growing. We've been improving. We're changing things up, trying to make things get the quality better on the visuals, the sound, what people are consuming. We've been putting in a lot of work, and people have been showing up. And I really appreciate everybody that has taken the time to drop in, interact, watch a video. It absolutely means so much to us. It gives me a chance to annoy Jay.
And folks, this guy, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not annoying. I mean, it slightly is, but it's not that bad. Folks, this guy, for anybody listening to this guy has been putting in some work. He's been teaching himself stuff he didn't know. He's learning math for the first time and how that works.
I'm from Oklahoma. Math's hard.
So if you do listen to this, and I'm going to take it a step further, we appreciate the likes and the follows, but share it with your friends. Send the link on Facebook. Send the link on Instagram or X, or if you still call it Twitter like I do, Twitter. I don't care. Send an old school email. When you go out for lunch, mention the show to your buddies when you're at lunch eating a buffet and get the word out, because we're having fun doing this show, and it's literally the Seinfeld of podcasts where, I mean, it comes together pretty natural. We kind of all see the same types of media all week, and anyway, not to hijack the conversation, but yeah,
no, man, that's the whole point. And so, yeah, guys, drop a like, give a subscribe, let everybody know what you're listening to. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Tell everybody else what you like, what you don't like. And I did want to just give a special shout out. As we've talked about, we're wanting to, on the road to our first 50 subscribers is our first goal, right? So I wanted to thank Whitney, Chad, JF, and Otto. Thank you so much for your subscriptions.
Thank you, guys. And
hope girls. To earn them. Hope you don't regret them. But yeah, we're going to do our best here. So going in on a few things, obviously, like Jay said, it's been a wild, crazy, hectic week, but there's been a lot happening during that week. So obviously, this is not going to be a comprehensive collection of news stories, but it is going to be a collection of some of the news stories that we care about and got our notice. So I guess, do you have anything else you want to say before we get going into hitting some of our topics, Jay?
No, man, I'll let you get rolling, and then I can just move on for there. I got some topics, but I've already previously discussed them with you, so I'm ready to go.
All right. Pardon me, guys. So I'm still gonna hit this cough button periodically. Again, me showing up. We're here for another week, which means another week of lost bets in the death pool. I have made it. I have survived. Sounds like Jay has more or less kicked his whatever plague that he had caught, but I unfortunately still have mine. But so first off, we have our good friends at Microsoft, and more specifically Xbox. And man, this is kind of a sort of go home Xbox, you're drunk kind of scenario here.
Yeah.
I was legitimately dumbfounded whenever I heard this. I thought it couldn't be real. So Xbox is raising the prices on all of their consoles, all of their hardware, like any of the peripherals, controllers, cords, any other accessories like that. And they're raising the price on some of their first party games to $80. Now, this comes off the back of an earnings call where they covered some stuff. So they are, and Jay predicts that this might be a little triggering for some of you. So hold on. They are the number one game publisher in the entire market. Xbox is. So,
Okay. So hot off the back of an earnings call may be true, but I think it's also, and I'm going to blame Nintendo for this because I love blaming Nintendo.
They're gonna get some shade.
But Nintendo, Microsoft's probably looking at Nintendo going, hey, it's working for them. They got the Switch 2 out. They've raised the price of their games to $80 or whatever they are. And why shouldn't we do it too? And plus, we're already talking about the fact that if there is a next Xbox, it'll basically be a lockdown version of a PC. So I can see where they're kind of going for this. I think they should have co-announced the fact that they're going to be giving you a serious graphics update package or whatever, or providing, upgradability for the existing consoles. And man, I got to tell you, that wasn't a schmegma cough. That was just something caught me there. But I got to tell you, I am super torn because I'm not an Xbox gamer, but I've always maintained that people that play games should play on whatever format they want to play on. I don't judge anybody or begrudge anybody, whatever system they decide to use. I cannot stand people that homer out on one system and defend the one that they play to the max and shut everything else down. I think that's stupid and isolationist.
Yeah, that never made more sense to me. Like, why would you be mad that more people can play the same game that you love?
Yeah,
like,
and
makes no sense.
So my thing is this: I don't currently have one of the newer Xbox systems, but I do have a PC and I do have a PS5. And anybody that plays PC knows two of the best things you can do is download Steam and become a Game Pass member, because you basically, I don't even know what you call it beyond quadrupling or adding hundreds of games to your library that you're not really paying for except for the monthly subscribe. I realized that PC Game Pass Ultimate or whatever recently had a price increase probably about 6 months ago. I realize it's tied to the Xbox one, but I still love it. I think it's a good format. The PS homers are talking
the Netflix
about
of video games.
Yeah, and PlayStation homers are the guys that are like, they're screwing themselves with giving out all these AAA titles for free on Game Pass. Well, A, it's not free, and B, you're just jealous because PS Plus, as good as it is and stable as it is, does not have the same system.
See, that's one of the things. They all say that the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he didn't exist. I think the greatest trick that Netflix ever pulled was convincing the world that movies and TV shows were somehow free on a paid service.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, you pay a subscription, it's not free.
Yeah.
No additional cost.
Yeah, you get to add it to your library the day it comes out or whatever, but you're still paying for it.
Yes.
You're just paying a lower monthly to be able to play a wide selection. So yeah, man, it felt good to not have to worry about pre-ordering or taking money out of the old pocket to play Indiana Jones when it came out, or to play this new Oblivion remastered or Claire Obscura. It felt good. So I don't know how I feel about that. The price hike on the consoles is ridiculous. I mean, that's beyond ridiculous. I don't know where they're heading with that, other than I think it's more about what Nintendo just did than less about the earnings call.
I 100% agree. I think there's my ADHD brain here, right? So we're going to go through a few facts with Xbox,
okay,
and we're going to see how we can tangentially bring these all together, because it's hard for me to go. We're going to lay out the thing, and then we'll web them together later. So here's a few facts for you. So on this earnings call, Xbox content and service revenue was up by 8% year over year.
Okay.
Growth in Game Pass, Call of Duty, and Minecraft were up 75. So there's growth in Game Pass, Call of Duty. Minecraft specifically play was up 75% year over year after the
which
movie.
they own now.
Yes, yes,
And they own
Mojang. Yeah, they own Mojang, the property. They own all of it. As I mentioned, Xbox is the #1 publisher in all of video games. Oblivion was obviously huge. Oblivion was the third. This is the crazy thing. Oblivion was the third best selling video game of all the video games released so far this year. So from January 1st to today, the video games that have released, Oblivion is the third best selling of them. Third only to Monster Hunter, which was #1, and Assassin's Creed being #2. It's third below those. And that third place is even with Game Pass. So that's not including any Game Pass plays. So this is actual sold copies. So it's been doing gangbusters. PC Game Pass, so like you were saying, it's starting to catch on. PC Game Pass was up by 45% in sales. People are catching on to Game Pass. The gaming, just division in general, grew by 9%. Cloud gaming hit a record 150 million hours played. Xbox is coming to LG devices, so you'll be able to do the Xbox Cloud playing. So I guess over Game Pass, you'll be able to do it where you don't have the disc or even a digital download, and you're basically remotely playing some server off somewhere else.
That's how it got started for me, because it's been on Samsung TVs for quite a while, and I played Flight Simulator on cloud, and that's what actually partially convinced me to get a PC. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. And so, yeah, it's a great system, man.
And that's kind of one of those things where it's like they become this big conglomerate, because even if all this stuff happens, you get a PC, well, guess what that PC's running? It's probably running Windows, which is Microsoft.
Yeah.
Like, they got you. But after all of that, their hardware division, however, declined by 6%. And that's just 6% year over year. It's obviously decreased way more than that since over the last several years. So that's the thing. They have all these massive increases, and then their hardware division declined by 6%, which is like, it's known at this point that Xbox is losing. I mean, they've been losing forever. They lost. Whenever they released the original Xbox, it took a little bit to get its footing, but they had Halo. And that got them attention. Then they had the 360, and with the 360, they overtook everybody. They were the new big dogs. And by the time it was, basically they were #1 from the 360 era, up until the very minute before they took the stage to launch the Xbox One. And that's whenever the lead vanished. That is some of the most impressive missteps I have ever seen a company make, was the launch of the Xbox One. The most poorly timed decisions, making the wrong decisions at just the wrong time. And even when they were right, they were wrong. And I can go into that. So the big thing with the Xbox One, by that time, everybody was in on it. Like, everybody was like, they were #1. The 360 was a monster. We were just all waiting. What are we going to be playing next? And they managed to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by taking the stage and showing everybody all about how they can watch TV on the Xbox. They showed you the world's most expensive TiVo machine for an entire presentation. Somehow, they took a gaming machine and thought people cared about what it could do for TV. This just before the streaming took over everything and made it completely obsolete anyway, because nobody had TV. Everybody was doing streaming. They did have one thing that was ahead of their time, and that was that they had this sort of digital plan. They were really pushing for they were really nudging people towards a digital space and trying to de-emphasize physical sales. And they got lambasted for this, ridiculed. Sony made parodies about it. And then ultimately they ended up being right, but they had backtracked. So even when they were right, they were wrong, because they backtracked, and then Sony still beat them to that. So there was that. But ever since then, it's been a decline. And then this era, these Xbox Series S, it's been an absolute embarrassment. And
I
now,
don't even know why the S exists, dude. I
yeah,
don't know why you
that's
wouldn't
another
pony it for
misstep.
the X.
That's another misstep is they released 2 consoles. One was actual next gen specs, and then the other one was somewhere between last gen and next gen.
It was like a PS4 Pro, but
Yeah,
worse.
and it's like, okay, that in itself is not, it's not the best idea, but it's not the worst. Where they really struggled, where they really fumbled the ball on that one, was the fact that they said, like, okay, well, your game has to run on both. Like, we can't have it's got to run just the same on both of them. We can't have features on the Series X that can't run on the Series S. So your game has to run on the Series S, and it has to be feature equivalent on both of them. It's got to have feature
Well,
parity.
that's
Like,
dumb.
yeah, and so now you're hamstringing everybody. So gosh, man, I used to be a huge Xbox fan, and I switched to PlayStation long ago, and now, and I think a lot more people are going to do that, because basically, as we pulled up earlier, that increase is basically about $100 per device. So the Xbox Series S, the lowest model of it, is something like $350 or almost $400, like 380 maybe. It's crazy. But the really crazy thing is that the Xbox Series X, their, what do they call it, Galaxy Black Edition, the one with 2 terabytes of storage, is $729, making it more expensive than a PlayStation 5 Pro. Don't buy this, people. Get a PlayStation 5. Don't buy this. If you're going to buy a console, get a PlayStation.
Or build a PC. Yeah.
Or build a PC. And then you can play with Jay, but you can't play with me. So get a PlayStation 5 and you can play with me.
I just want to say, I mean, this is the page today for Game Pass. And when I compare it to PlayStation, and I love my PlayStation, don't get me wrong, but dude, there are some absolute bangers just on this page alone.
Yeah, man. Obviously, Modern Warfare is always a killer. You got Far Cry. There's Expedition 33, fantastic.
Yeah,
looking around here. Oh, Oblivion. Yeah.
Stalker 2,
Adamfall. I've heard good things
Minecraft.
about Adamfall. I have not played it, but I've heard good things.
And I've heard good things about Avowed, and I haven't played it. And I was really shocked that the new early access of the new RuneScape game did not make it to Game Pass. I was actually shocked about that, but
it's a name I've not heard since RuneScape, man. That one
I have not heard
an old one.
Time.
But Avowed, I've heard mixed reviews on. I've heard mixed reviews on Avowed. But so speaking of games, that brings me to the next point, is, like you'd mentioned, the $80 price point for video games. So they, God bless them, so generous, they're not going to do it on any games that are currently out. It's only going to be on games that come out later for their first party games. And it's because, here's the thing, is they're claiming that this price increase on hardware is because of the tariffs. Now, one, obviously with the tariffs, yeah, it is going to affect the cost of the hardware, but you're already behind. What do you think making your hardware more expensive than the hardware of the company you're losing to? What do you have to gain? Microsoft has the money. They should just take the loss.
Well, I think a lot of them think that it's going to force Sony's hand. And if Sony's smart, and I think Japanese culture on a whole is smart, they're going to go, you know what? We're just going to run the hard line and stay right where we're at.
Let's just run the clock down. Let's just run down the damn clock.
Guys, we're going to run the ball. We're going to kneel on it. We're going to do whatever it takes.
Just like hold it and dribble. Because so here's the crazy thing, though, is they're also blaming the tariffs on the $80 price increase, along with increased production cost, right? But there's no tariffs on a digital game. And the vast majority of game sales these days are digital. Even on console, the vast majority is digital, because everybody knows, even if you have the disc, we've talked about this before in past episodes, you don't have the game on that disc. You basically have a hall pass on that disc.
Right. It's your entry badge.
Yeah, it just says like, hey, I bought this, give it to me. And then it downloads to your hard drive.
Yeah.
Because then any downloads, DLC, updates. So there's that, which is crazy to me. And I guess we'll talk about that before this last bit that I have with Xbox. But so I agree with you absolutely that they saw Nintendo and they're like, all right, bet, let's do that. And I think everybody's kind of going around this thing where nobody wants to be the one that fully goes in. So Nintendo said just Mario Kart. Just Mario Kart is $80. And you can negate that though if you buy the bundle where it's the Switch 2 and Mario Kart together, and it's only $50 more than just the Switch 2. So they're like, hey, it's $80, but if you buy the bundle, it's just $50, and it's just this one game, guys. So everybody's like trying to justify it. Okay, they're just trying to pump up the sales of their bundle and blah blah. Like they were going to have any trouble selling them anyway.
I
And
think
so
parents are going to get screwed with their pants on at Christmas. Dude. It's going to be
right, yeah.
I mean, no Vaseline. We're not even coming in. It's raw dog.
and then so Microsoft comes in and they're like, hey guys, these tariffs, these digital tariffs apparently, and they're saying like, hey, but you know what? It's only going to be on first party games, guys. Just a few of them, just first party. And hey, if you get Game Pass, you get all those first party games for free. So people can say the same thing about them, like that they did about Nintendo. Oh, hey, they're just trying to motivate people to go on Game Pass. It's still a good deal. So I think everybody's just trying to pass the buck to the next guy. And just like you said with the hardware, I think Microsoft is hoping that PlayStation will be the ones that dive in and say, boom, $80. But again, if they're smart, they'll just be like, no, we'll just hold. We'll just hold.
Yeah. And man, maybe I'll miss the mark on it, but I really think that's what they'll do.
I hope so.
And they will clean house on Black Friday and Christmas shopping.
Yeah. So, and that's going to lead into our next topic. Well, actually, sorry, but we'll get into that here in a second. I do have one other thing, Xbox hardware related, and I don't know. I don't know. I have feelings. I don't know what they are. I'm confused, Jay. I don't know what to believe here. So there have been persistent rumors for years now that Xbox was working on a handheld. They were wanting to get in on that handheld market, which why? You're losing on the console market that you previously dominated. Like why are you going to try to get into a market like even PlayStation tried to get into the handheld market and they got killed by Nintendo. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
So they are there's some leaks came out, and it was basically around a new device, and it was the Asus ROG or ROG Ally 2. Appears as though it will, I don't know if it will be exclusively or just have a particular variant that will be Xbox branded. So instead of being a handheld Xbox home console like the Series X or something, instead of being like a handheld version of those, it looks like what their strategy is actually going to be is like the Steam Deck, where it's a handheld version of a home PC, where you are going to have access to the PC Game Pass. And that is the only selling point I could see having here is the fact that you could get Game Pass and have access to a library of games on the go. But is that even worth it to make the difference? I still don't think that even the market for handhelds like the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, I don't think is that strong.
Well, the Steam Deck is actually picking up steam, as it were.
Oh, is it? Oh, good.
But I got to tell you, it's important, first off, to differentiate between Asus and the Asus ROG or Asus ROG Strix product line. Like, for instance, I'm running an Asus ROG Strix motherboard in my computer. So it at least tells me that they went after a legitimate contender as far as the hardware.
And somebody that's already done it.
Yes. So I don't have a problem believing that this thing is going to push the boundaries and at least be more on par with Steam Deck than the Switch or the PS Portal will be. Or, even worse, which I love mine, but I have the Backbone and I love it because it runs all of them. And they even differentiate on those as far like the white one for the PS5 and the black one for the Xbox, even though both of them will run both of them. But if they're going with an Asus ROG, then I mean, at the very least, they think they're for real.
But the question then becomes, is it going to be an Asus ROG Ally 2 and just say with Game Pass or have some sort of Xbox branding or licensing, or are they going to try to brand it as Xbox? Because honestly, I think that the better sales would come from if the machine was the same. If the machine was the same, the Asus ROG Ally 2 with all the same features, I think is going to sell better than an Xbox handheld. All the same features. If they just when the only difference is branding, I think the Asus ROG Ally 2 is going to be the one that sells better because the Asus ROG Ally has already been there, done it. Like you said, it's already got cachet in there, and people already know what it's about. And Xbox, they are not. They seem to think they're a lot bigger deal than they think they are. They know, like, they are the number one publisher. Yes. But they're the number one publisher simply because they own so many game developers. They bought Bethesda. They bought Blizzard. Nobody thinks about Microsoft when they play Oblivion. Nobody thinks about Microsoft when they play World of Warcraft or whatever the other Blizzard shooter game is.
Diablo.
No.
Overwatch.
Overwatch. Yeah. Nobody thinks about Microsoft when they're playing these games. So technically, yeah, they're the best. They're the biggest publisher, but nobody thinks about them. And then as far as whenever it comes to the Xbox brand, it's becoming more and more of a laughingstock, unfortunately. And
It's funny. I don't even think about Microsoft when it's a Microsoft branded game. Like I play Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport, which are technically Microsoft branded games, although it's a sub house called Turn 10 that makes the game. But it's still considered Microsoft first party. But well, still, I don't think about it anymore when it comes to that. I've always looked at them as they make Windows and, well, they make Windows.
Yeah, I just really, I mean, and another thing, guys, is as we go into this and as their hardware division was already dead. Their hardware division died whenever it was already dying, but it was official once they started selling their first party games on PlayStation. And now that's a thing. So now we're here raising the prices. There's literally no reason to buy an Xbox. You can get Game Pass on PC. You can get access to those games. You have to buy the games, but you can still get access to them on PlayStation. There's literally no reason to buy an Xbox anymore.
Yeah,
it's dead. It's dead as far as Xbox the hardware. Now Xbox Game Pass, I think they're going to try to work and they're going to try to get that on PlayStation or something like that. I think they're going to be like whenever Sega and Nintendo, whenever they were competitors for so long, and now we've got games where Sonic the Hedgehog is competing against Mario and things. Now they're buddies. So the Cold War is over. I think that's what they're gonna. I think they're conceding. This is just the weirdest punch drunk move I've ever seen. Raising the price to where you are higher than your competitors. I don't know. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense to me, Jay.
Yeah.
So there you go. Advice from the Hardcore Casual Studios: don't buy an Xbox, guys. And that's going to lead us into story 2. So this is why it matters. This is why the price increase matters. So going into GTA 6, the trailer dropped. So last week it got delayed. I speculated last week about we talked about how Borderlands 2 was bumped up by 2 weeks. And so now it's going to be releasing earlier in September, 2 weeks earlier. And some people were speculating, I among them, that since they share a parent company between Gearbox and Rockstar, that perhaps Gearbox had knowledge of when GTA 6 was going to be dropping, and maybe that actually contributed to the decision to move their release date forward. Randy Pitchford declared, nay, this is not so. And as it turned out, that was correct, because we then got the announcement literally the day after our show, hours after I made my speculation. I was immediately proven wrong. And they announced that they would then be releasing May 26th of 2026. So that brings a lot of questions with it. So now that we have this whole race to $80 thing, what are the odds that GTA, and I can see this from two sides. What do you think the odds are that GTA 6 doesn't launch at $80 or above?
Well, I think there's going to be 3 versions of the game. If I had to guess, you're going to get the standard version. That's probably going to be $80. There's going to be some type of shark card versions after that. I think you're going to see a great white version that's going to give you like the $20 shark card. That's not going to do shit for you, and then you're going to get the
it'll get you a trucker hat and a pair of shoes.
Yeah, what we call around here the big boy editions. The big boy edition will probably be $149 if I had to guess. It'll probably come with I still don't think they'll give you the Megalodon shark card, but they'll give you something. It'll probably be like $4 million or something like that, whatever it is. Plus, some in-game outfits and bullshit like that. So I think the other piece we need to look at is that I think is going to be a new type of DLC this time is going to be clean license plate packs.
Dude, that would be the worst.
When I said that at work, like everybody just stopped and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm like, yeah. If they're making it in the game to where people in the game can use their cell phone and take pictures of your license plate, and they're making it an option to where you can change out your license plate for a clean one, some exec that's also a gamer sitting in a boardroom going, hey, we could sell 10, 20, and 50 packs of clean license plates in addition to the shark cards.
Well, our friends.
I hope none of those guys are watching this right now, but yeah.
There was once an executive at EA, and this is a very famous example.
Really?
That once
no shit.
That once speculated or hypothesized that they could charge for reloads in in like Call of Duty, that kind of like those kind of shooter games, that they could charge per reload and do that. And then I believe that was the same guy that then went on to be the CEO of Unity, the game engine that whenever they made the announcement that the games that were already made in Unity, that if you had sold above X number, that you had to share a percentage of the profit with them. And eventually that ended up getting reversed and that guy ended up losing his job. Thank God. But
right.
Yeah, they're greedy. So I can see it going one of two ways. I can absolutely see GTA, because if you watch the GTA 6 trailer, did you watch it, Jay?
I did.
So it looks.
I do have a very strong opinion after you get through this point you're about to make. But go ahead.
Oh yes, well we definitely do. We're going to talk about it. So and I did do a GTA 6. Well, it ended. I wanted it to be a watch along. It ended up being more like a GTA 6 slideshow. So it wasn't exactly as planned. We had some technical difficulties. Those are going to be resolved. But go and watch it anyway. There was some fun theory crafting. And it turns out during some of that theory crafting, I'm not one to brag. I'm not one to rub anybody's nose in it. But I was right. So during that trailer, it looked amazing. But there were some spots that I speculated were not cinematics. As in, it wasn't just like a straight up cinematic, but it was more of the portions of the game where an action is being done. So it's in game, but it's doing the controlling, and then it will lead into you taking over control. There were a few portions that looked like that's what was going on. Turns out I was right. So Rockstar confirmed that GTA 6 trailer was, I know this, Jay has thoughts. The GTA 6 trailer was captured on a base PS5 with equal parts gameplay and cutscenes. So go back and watch the watch along that we did, and you can see the spots that I speculated are the gameplay. So I will let Jay go ahead and vent some of the steam before it comes out of his ears, and he can let us know his thoughts on this claim.
Yes, you are in fact right that this is the information they put out. Do they need to be honest with the public? No, they don't. They can say whatever and show whatever they want. Do I think that more of it was cutscene than gameplay? I do.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody thought it was all cutscene, though, which was
in fact, there were pieces of where I thought, okay, this is the gameplay. You could almost just tell that, okay, this is the gameplay segment. But those were so quick and so fast, and flashed out of in a heartbeat back to a story a bit. And I also have a hard time believing that this was running on a base PS5. I know that's what they're saying, and I could be wrong, obviously, but I just feel like this was not running on it. It was either on a 5 Pro or some mega PC. But which brings me to my hardest point, and then I have one's a point and one's an opinion. But my hardest point is I think it's less about the price when we talk about GTA 6, because the price is going to be hard felt across the board, not just in the price for the game. There's a lot of people out there that have no idea how or what, or even that they would need to add an SSD to their PS5. There's a lot of,
I have done it. I recommend everybody do it.
For lack of a better term, people that buy it, they bring it home, they think this is all I need. And they've been, messing around with deleting and reinstalling games for the whole time they've had a PS5. And the size that GTA 6, about a year ago, when they said what the size was going to be, it would take a separate SSD just to run. And a lot of people think it's just about the space of the game, but they're not thinking about the buffer partition needed to actually run the game. So, if it's 650 or 750 gigabytes, it's basically going to take a whole terabyte SSD to run that thing.
It's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts, especially given what we saw in that trailer. The level of detail was absolutely unreal. Now, granted, they found some really clever shortcuts on a lot of things that looked very impressive. And they've been doing this. Not only have they been doing this for a long time, they've been making impressive games on less than stellar hardware for a long time. They always seem to be able to squeeze out more than anybody else can. But they also have been working on this game for 10 years now, something like that. It's been forever, So they're
in the same boat Larian's in, man, where they designed a game, they left it with plenty of replayability, and they were able to partition off part of their team to go start working on 6.
Yeah, they gave themselves
Larian's
breathing room. Yeah, they gave
Yeah.
themselves breathing room where they're like, hey, man, people are going to be playing this for a long time. Of course, they even have one step above Larian, which was the whole thing is GTA 5 Online. This thing is a behemoth. It's it's still hugely popular. We were actually
its own economy.
Yeah, well, as I brought up in the watch along that is on our channel, the original intention of GTA 5, once you went through, they were going to do, because all the other GTAs, we had gotten I guess not GTA 3, but previous GTAs we had gotten DLC. So GTA 4 and up, we had gotten DLCs, and they were some of the best GTA out there. Some of those little DLCs that we got, like the Ballad of Gay Tony and the motorcycle one that escapes me the name of, but they were great. But we were supposed to get DLC, and it was supposedly going to be focused on everybody's favorite part, the heists. But then GTA 5 Online just took off like crazy, and they just decided, you know what? This is fine. We'll just do this. Don't even worry about the DLC. So we never got the DLC. So now we have this, and who knows what GTA 6 Online is going to look like. But the level of detail on here is crazy. In Red Dead Redemption 2, famously, they had the shrinking horse testicles levels of detail. And we had not gotten to see them do that with GTA 5, GTA, because GTA 5, people don't realize GTA 5 is like 10 years old. We are talking about multiple generations now that GTA 5 has been on, and it still looks great, but now they've got even more horsepower, and they're gonna get the best out of it, I think. And I'm willing to trust them that they know enough tricks that this is now. It's probably not going to run 60 frames a second or anything like that, but I would bet that it still looks stunning on a base PS5.
I will say this too. I would have paid, and I bet they're still having these conversations in meetings, not conversations, but I would have paid to have been a fly on the wall for whoever the number cruncher guy, money-wise, that they invite to the boardroom when they talk about GTA 6 and goes, you guys realize right now we're making $15.7 billion a year on GTA 5 Online. But as soon as we launch 6, that's gone.
Well, I don't know because
Dude,
there's
everybody I've talked to is like, man, I'm out. I'm out on 5 as soon as 6 launches.
well, I mean, there for sure. That's the vast majority of like the normie players and things like that. But there are dedicated like art like role playing servers with where everything's modded out and things like that. They people have added stuff where you can actually be a police officer and stuff like that, and people watch it
Oh
on
yeah.
Twitch. So I think that there will still be a core loyal audience. I don't think they're obviously not going to be making money hand over fist on it, but I think there'll still be players that are on it. But I mean, they're not going to miss it because they're going to be making probably twice that on GTA 6. Which brings me to
But
the oh, go ahead.
they've never yet launched the online component with the single player component. And
True.
B, a lot of those guys you're talking, like I subscribe to a guy, he's a real life cop, and then he uses a cop mod in GTA.
Sheriff Eli?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Sheriff
Yeah,
Eli.
so
Shout out
he's
Sheriff
not
Eli.
buying he's not they don't I bet the executives don't like him because he's not buying shark cards. He's got his police car and he's got his skills and he's just doing his job out there on the beat. They like the guys that see other guys flying around in an A10 Warthog and go, I want that. And they need $3 million in shark cards to get it. That's who that game is catering to. I mean, unless they're launching the online at the same time, which I think is where you were going next anyway. And I'm sorry if I stole your thunder.
No, you're good. No,
But that valve is going to get shut down, not because they want it to. And I'm not saying it'll be overnight, or anything, but they're not going to make the money they're making right now. And I'm not talking about GTA 6. I'm talking about 5. The residual on 5 is going to go down sharply once 6 online drops.
I will say though, no one needs shed a tear for Rockstar. Rockstar is going to be just fine during this time of need. They have more money than God right now.
Oh man, literally.
Yeah,
but
so one way to look at it, as far as launching, they could see this whole wave that we're looking at, where Nintendo's charging $80 for Mario Kart, then Xbox is charging $80 for some of their first party games. They could look at that and say, because here's the deal. GTA is going to sell record-breaking numbers of this. The record only held by the previous GTA, right? They're going to shatter
probably
their own
second
record.
place is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, they're going to make all the money. They're going to make all the money. So they could either look at it one of two ways. They could either say, hey, these people are going to buy it. No matter what we charge, they're going to buy it. If we charge $100, $150 and say, hey, we worked on it a really long time, guys. It was really expensive to make. People are going to buy it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So they could look and say, hey, it's guaranteed money no matter what. Or they could look like the Pope and say, you know what, guys, all this stuff going on, we're gonna give it to you, and it's just gonna be $60. We're not changing anything. And they could look like the most, malevolent people. Wait, that's the bad one, isn't it? Benevolent people.
Yes.
Benevolent people.
Yeah.
And give it to them for this standard price, and they're still going to make all the money, all the sales, and then once they get that online component, they are going to be drowning in cash.
And I'm going to tell you this: what they could also do is sell you the single player experience and then charge you extra for the online component. And I'll tell you something else: they're going to be tracking pre-orders as soon as they're available. But if they're not going to offer 3-day or 7, maybe they'd be the first company to offer a 7-day early access for a pre-order, which would be unheard of. And that would cement it for them, I think. But if they're not going to offer any kind of early access because they want everybody to play it at the same time, then I don't think they're going to get the pre-orders that they're looking for, because what's the impetus for it? You said it yourself, nobody's buying physical games anymore. I haven't bought a physical game in over 10 years. And nobody's going to pay for it early if they're not getting something for it.
I think, I mean, they're not going to be, well, they might actually be record-breaking pre-orders. You never know with people. They can behave weird.
Yeah.
But I can see two reasons to order early, to pre-order at this point. One is, hey, I had some overtime this week. I got some money right now and I can spend it. It's October or whenever they open up pre-orders, right? And they say like, "Hey, I've got this money right now. I may not have it come May 26th of
That's a
2026."
fair point.
And they said, "Let me go ahead and do it now and that way I know I've got the game when it releases." And the other
Yeah.
one is to buy it early so that you can go ahead and pre-download this God only knows how many gigabytes worth of a game and get that
Oh
already
yeah.
on.
I think night before pre-orders will be
For
through the
sure.
goddamn roof.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that. But here's a shocker for you and an unexpected comment probably for me. I might not get it at all.
It doesn't shock me. It doesn't strike me like you don't strike me as the somebody that would super be into. I think you'd enjoy it, the heist and stuff, but you don't strike me as somebody that's like super into it.
So here's the funny thing. I got it when it came out on the 360. I was able to go through that just torturous transfer of my character from the 360 to the PS4, which was insane. I mean, I was literally on the phone with Rockstar to get that done. I had a guy from work join my game one night because he didn't believe I played, and he pops into my game and he realizes I own Maze Bank. I have every single business. I have the underground bunker. I'm sitting on $34 million in money. I don't worry about buying anything in that game. And I still have not played it religiously for probably 4 or 5 years. And this is more of a philosophical, psychological part of the GTA conversation. I'm kind of GTA'd out, man. I don't know if it's age, because I still enjoy the topic that they cover, the whole theme of the game. I enjoy that. I enjoy traveling through these cities, especially since this one's back in Vice City, which was my favorite anyway, and a town that I actually lived in, Miami. But the loop is exactly the same. It never changes. I mean, it never changes. And if I were you, I'd make the argument, well, hey, Jay, you play a lot of games where the loops never change. Fallout loops never change.
Well, see,
Elder Scrolls games never change in their loop.
well, for me, the loop is the story. That's what I want. I want to do all the same. I want to do all the same stuff that I've been doing, and I want to do it somewhere new with new people. And like, because the characters are such an integral part of the Grand Theft Auto vibe. And that's the big thing. That's what makes you get lost in a Rockstar game.
Agreed.
Is the environments that they build. Like Red Dead Redemption 2. I dare anybody to try to start anywhere. I don't care where you start. Start somewhere and just open up the map, try to pick a mission. You could even pick just a destination and try to get from where you are and make it across the map. Left to right, right to left, up to down, down to up. Just try to get from one point to another and not get sidetracked by something else to do. Some stranger calling for help, some random event that pops up. It feels alive. And that's what makes it so immersive.
I'll tell you what won't shock you is I still have it installed. And every now and then, and I'm getting ready to tell you that I do too, but not in the way you're thinking. I love what they do when they gather music for Grand Theft Auto. I log in now and get in a car when I've had a rough day and just cruise around the city listening to songs that I had the tapes of in high school, right? And just sing along or rap along or laugh at some of the ads and commercials in the middle and talk shows. But I don't do anything else, man. I can just drive around.
No, I get it. Because even like Red Dead Redemption 2, it was really cathartic sometimes where you just, stressed or whatever, just to go to camp, make some coffee, drink some coffee, talk to everybody.
Yeah.
And then chop some wood, gather some water.
Walk down the hill, throw the pole in the water, do some fishing.
Like just to do the mundane things.
Yeah.
And, it kind of feel immersed in this world that you love. And that's what they're so good at, is that there's so many people can play the games different ways because, obviously we want the story, but it's so easy. I mean, case in point with the RP players that have these servers with mods, it's so easy to get lost in there, to do other things, to
Yeah.
drive around and listen to music,
Well,
or just
dude, it's
drive
the
around and be like,
Matrix.
you know what, I'm gonna be a vigilante. I'm gonna drive around, and
Yeah.
every time I say, hey, every time I hear somebody say, hey, he's got my purse, I'm gonna jump out and I'm gonna beat the crap out of somebody. You know,
Yeah.
like there's so many things, or just walk around and go clothes shopping. Go get another haircut, play with a beard. Like just try all this different stuff. And there's so many things that you can do that are just absolute time sinks, and they're just really cathartic.
Dude, it's the Sims with guns, is what
Yes.
it is.
Yeah, it's violent Sims, man.
It's the Sims with guns.
So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really curious to see what they do with the time, money, and graphical power behind this thing to make it come alive. I'm excited to see a hopefully Red Dead Redemption 2 level of story
depth
and detail, depth and humanity to all come together. And I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm excited. And if they did, so here's one thing about me. Which I mentioned on the trailer watch along, is that I never got into GTA 5. I have never played a heist on GTA 5 online. I just never got into it. The online component was really weird. I just never got into it.
So many trolls, man. So many trolls.
I didn't know anybody that was like super into it. I wish I would have known that you were into it. Could have done some heists. So the only heists I ever got in GTA 5 were the heists from the main game. And once those were done, I didn't have any more heists to do. And looking at the trailer, there were at least 3 different levels of robbery that we saw take on. We saw like a little store and a little register get robbed, which I hope is bringing back the ability to just rob any random store like we had the ability to do in GTA 3. And then we saw like a bank level robbery where they had the mask pulled over their face, they had guns, they had hostages, and we saw them pulling a safe or a crate behind a truck that I'm assuming they had just ripped out of a wall or a floor and were taking it away. So I'm hoping that obviously we're going to get heists in this game. I'm hoping that we get a lot of heists in this game.
Well, I think you're talking about Miami though, and the if they play on, and I hope they don't
drugs and guns, man. Drugs and guns.
That's what it'll be. It'll be drug runs and guns, and I hope they introduce like a Cuba element where they do, or a Colombia element where you're running guns out of South Florida and drugs out of South Florida, and then play out the whole. I mean, you'd have to be familiar with the area, but the Tamiami Airport, which is where, like, if you saw Savages or Blow,
dude, Blow is one of my favorite movies.
Back in the late 70s and 80s, Tamiami Airport was this little municipal airport that's where everybody flew into, and it got so bad that eventually the federal government decided we're going to buy it and we're putting all of the government agencies on the airfield. So, I mean, we dare you to fly into Tamiami Airport. But anyway, that would be cool if that's in there. Maybe some homages to Vice City.
Oh, they're gonna be there for sure. Yeah. They're gonna be there. We're gonna hear some people talk about like, oh, because Vice City took place in the 80s. So I would wager that we're gonna have at least 1 or 2 old characters that are still kicking around that show up, and I bet we're going to get quite a few name drops like, oh yeah, remember this Tommy guy from yep, remember this Tommy guy back in the day, and he whatever.
Lawrence Taylor still running his car dealership, or I still remember, man, when I first loaded in that game, first got in a car, and I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight came on, and right after that was Billie Jean. I still remember that, and that part of it was wonderful. And I will tell you this: if you ever do want to get on 5, I know like 3 or 4 people we could probably get on there.
I'm down. Let's do it.
So you could at least do the heist one time and say you did it.
Yes.
But anyway, that's all I've got to say about GTA 6.
The only other thing that I have to mention was, again, something mentioned in the watch along. I don't know if they've what.
No, nothing. You said the only other thing, and I was like, yeah, shit.
Do we gotta? I was just going to ask what your thoughts are on one thing, and that is because I don't think that they've announced officially, hey, these are the only two characters you play. Like they've said, like,
Yeah.
so the one thing that I thought would be cool watching that trailer, there is what's clearly like the lead detective that's going to be going after this couple there. And I thought, man, GTA 5, there were 3 characters. Here,
Yeah.
so far, we only know of 2, and it's the boyfriend girlfriend combo, the Bonnie and Clyde going at her.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be cool, especially because we love heist movies, fan of crime sagas, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one great thing that heist movies do, a lot of good heist movies, is you get to see it from both sides. You get to see the
Heat.
criminals and what
Dude.
exactly. It's exactly where I was going, sir. Yeah. So what if
Heat never showed it better, man, than showing both sides of the deal.
So what if we got those 2 and then we got to play the cop as number 3? I would love that.
Yeah.
That
there was
would
no
be
better scene in cinema than when Pacino and his crew and Heat were standing in that dockyard, and all of Pacino's guys are like, why would they come in here? There's like 40 different ways in. There's 20 ways out. I don't see what the value is. And Pacino starts putting it together, and he's like, guys, they're here for us. We're the show. You got us. We're here.
You guys, if you have not seen Heat, see Heat.
My God.
It's Michael Mann this is peak Michael Mann. And if you guys don't know who Michael Mann is, he also he's done a lot of great movies. He did the one movie I can recall where Tom Cruise was the villain, and it was called Collateral. And that is one of my absolute favorite movies as well. But yeah, it had De Niro, it had Kilmer, not De Niro.
It did have De Niro, dude. He was the main bad guy.
Oh yeah, it was De Niro. Sorry, I get De Niro and Pacino confused in my head sometimes. But yeah, it had Val Kilmer. Man, it was so good. It was so good, and they're actually doing a sequel.
Yeah,
they're doing it too. But yeah, watch Heat. Watch Heat.
Great movie.
So the last thing I have, and then we have a really big thing where we're going to have a really big conversation around some really unique games that I will say some of you probably heard of, but I can pretty much guarantee you ain't heard of all of them that we're going to talk about. But you're going to want to look them up once we're done talking about them. However, before we get there, I just have one thing, and I just need to Keeley all over Hideo Kojima real quick and take it back to one of our favorite topics, which is Death Stranding.
Death Stranding.
So, it's a Jeff Keighley joke for those not aware. His best friend, Hideo Kojima. So, we love Death Stranding. Death Stranding 2 is coming out. Recently, there was they gathered a bunch of journalists and content creators, and they allowed this group of people to play Death Stranding 2 for 30 hours. And they were able to talk about that. That got lifted. They can now talk about that. So one of my favorite content creators whenever it comes to gaming is called SkillUp. And so Ralph, who's SkillUp, he came back. He did his little update video, and he had a lot of information that I thought was just really interesting, and figured we could kind of talk about it real quick, see if it sparks any other conversation, and then we can roll in to the greater gaming conversation. But so Death Stranding 2, we had one of my questions answered. One of my questions that I had asked whenever we were speculating and talking about Death Stranding 2 after watching the wild trailer. And if you guys have not watched the trailer for Death Stranding 2, watch it. And man, it's a trip. But one of the questions that I had posed was wondering how we get around to basically doing the same thing again, when in the trailer it makes a point of stating that basically all of the deliveries are automated now, all this stuff is going on. So it talks about that at first. So it's like, well, if we connected the chiral network, across the entire United States, and all of the deliveries are automated now, how are we doing it again? How are we doing it again? Would you like to take a guess, Jay, about how we're doing it again after we had connected all of the United States and all these deliveries are automated? How could we be in the same situation yet again
For the sequel, you mean?
for the sequel?
I have. Well, we've already. That's a really good point because we spent the whole first game reconnecting the entire network.
All right. Well, you want me to tell you?
Sure.
We're not going to be in the United States. So
we're basically retreading the same years in a different location.
Well, so there's reasons to be moving. So the game
Are we in the Philippines?
The game will start off in Mexico, and after being in Mexico for a little bit, something happens. He didn't want to spoil what it is, so we'll see. Who knows what happens and how we get there? But we're going to go from Mexico, and then the majority of the game will take place in Australia, and we will be we will be building chiral networks across Mexico and Australia.
I understand Mexico because it's next to the United States, but I feel like the next location would be, realistically speaking, either Canada or South America to keep them connected, because Australia is, it's quite a bit off the.
I was about to say, I hear it's a couple miles away. I hear it's a couple miles offshore. So apparently, again, we don't know the story beats behind what lead to this, but while you're in Mexico, natural flora, fauna, and creatures from Australia begin to appear in Mexico. So you start
saltwater crocs, gigantic crab spiders, and great white sharks,
and all the most venomous snakes in the world.
And all the most venomous snakes in the world.
So
basically the worst parts of the Bible.
So it's like apparently, yeah, right, all the plagues. So it's apparently like Australia begins to leak into Mexico, bits of Australia, and then we find ourselves there at some point somehow. Who knows? But there's the deal. So that's how we're doing it again. Is that we're now, instead of, because before it was focused on the United States, so now the mission is, well, we got it in the U.S., now we need to build it out broader across the world. So
real quick, one thing I was hoping is in the second game that we got to explore more time in the Death world, in the Black Earl world, like kind of Stranger Things, where they spend a significant amount of season 2 in the Upside Down.
I would love that because as you get. Never mind. I don't want to ruin anything, but it's certainly a thing that you see.
Sorry,
it's certainly
if I
a thing
spoiled
that you see.
anything for people that haven't.
Oh no! I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think they're probably being like. It's probably not spoiled because they probably have no idea what we're even saying right now. They're probably like, "Wait, what?" It's like speaking gibberish or whatever. They're just like, "I don't spoilers. No, I don't even know what you're saying right now." But yeah, I would hope so. I bet if we do get to, it's probably not something that we would be allowed to know just yet. But there are, however, a lot of changes. SkillUp did mention that the traversal was probably the least touched as far as the way that it operates, but there are improvements on the technology that you have access to and the different things that you can utilize to make it easier and stuff like that. So there are improvements to that. But he said it's great, but that's like the least one. They put a lot more effort into other things like combat and that kind of thing. And one big thing that he did mention as far as the on foot, the delivery aspect of it, was we now have access to monorails. So before you could get up to the point where you were building essentially highways, and then you could use bikes or trucks and travel and carry large quantities of resources and goods and deliveries on the truck and use the highway or something like that to really travel and get a lot there. So now in order to build these different things, roads and that sort of thing, you may need even more resources, which was the thing before where you would need a lot of resources. So you would carry as many resources as you could, go to the point, dump them, and then go back for more resources. So now
I do that all the time on SnowRunner, man. So yeah, I'm used to that already.
Yeah. So, but now the monorail will apparently be able to do where you'll be able to essentially fill up this train. The monorail will connect to mines, and so you'll be able to go to mines, pick up more resources than you could carry on even a truck, and get that to the location that you're going. So you can carry massive amounts of resources. The boss battles he said, are still absolutely insane. And he said that there is one particular boss battle that takes place about 20 hours into the game that he
Who
said
said this?
is Skill Up, Ralph of
Oh,
Skill
okay.
Up.
Gotcha.
He said that 20 hours into the game, there is a boss battle, and it is a sequence. He said it is the single greatest sequence he has ever seen on a console. Single most impressive, visually stunning sequence he has ever seen on a console.
That is,
High praise.
and I'm not denying him because I know him as far as his channel and whatnot, but that is a stiff claim, especially in a year where we saw the opening 20 minutes of Wukong.
Well, and let's not even forget about God of War. God of War, both of the Valhalla and the relaunch.
Never played them.
Oh my! Are you serious?
Don't even start with me, bro. I have so many "Are you seriouses" with you that we can't even
admonish Jay in the comments, guys. Admonish Jay in the comments.
Go for
so
it.
There's some insane scenes that I don't even want to. I can't even with you right now.
Bring a lunch. It's going to be a long day because I will nail all of y'all to the
wall. There are some new weapons. The combat has been. They've made a bunch of tweaks to the combat, and not only have they made tweaks to the combat, but they have also increased combat. So he said that in his time playing the game, if he was to have to stick it to a solid fraction, he would say about 1/4 of the missions that he played were missions where you had to go to a camp and take out the people that were there. So direct combat missions, which were few and far between in the original game.
They did add a lot more later.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's been since you've played it, but
not
I guess they listened to the community was calling for more combat, and they actually added a lot more combat.
Well, there were
stuff.
And there was certainly a lot of times where it would be like, oh, hey, go here. And it turned out the only way to get there was to go through a camp. But very rare was it where they were like, hey, go to this camp and take these people out. Sometimes you could go into a camp and it would just be to grab a thing, and you could actually sneak in, grab the thing, sneak out. But
to be fair, man, that wasn't the premise of the game in the first place.
Right. So that's the thing is Hideo Kojima said, because obviously he was there and they got to talk to him. And Hideo Kojima told them that he had gotten a lot of people saying that they wanted him to make Metal Gear again. So he gave them more options for combat. So we now have more opportunities to get into combat. Yeah. But he said that you could still take other options. You could go around, you could try to do stealth, you could go and do it outright. And he gave people more opportunities to get into battles. And he did mention that his thought behind this one, he equated it to, I'm not sure where he got, I don't know if this is like a Japanese parable or something like that, but he said basically he equated the two games, Death Stranding 1 and Death Stranding 2, as the rope and the stick, where the stick is to ward off evil and demons, and the rope is to keep things together that matter to you. So game 1 was about the rope and
it's the connecting that bind us. Yeah.
Connecting everyone and holding everyone together. And he said that game 2 is about the stick. So probably going to be.
You and I've said it a million times about this game that this has almost showed up as much now as the Kennedys, but that once you can wrap your head around the absolute absurdity of this plot, it actually starts to make sense.
Yep.
In a very modern history kind of way that we have become so detached by our technology and we don't interact with each other on the personal level anymore. And this
to the point that some people are allergic to it.
Right.
In the game.
This game showed in sort of a metaphorical way that because of that, this is the way the world is now.
This is what you get whenever you don't have human connection.
Correct. And I think that's the underlying premise that he hopes everybody gets, and maybe some
Absolutely.
people never did. Maybe some people just played it through,
And they're just like, what was that about? That was weird.
They just took it as a game, and they're like, hey, I got to get from point A to point B to point C. Okay, I'm done. Good, next game. And there's a lot of people that play games that way. I'm not one of them. I want to know what's going on. If I can't figure it out, I want to do the research and figure it out. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that title as well.
So yeah, I am too. And yeah, just like Jay said, the game, the original establishes its boundaries, it sets its rules, and then once you accept its rules, everything else follows those rules. It doesn't break its own rules. It all makes sense. It follows its crazy premise. Once you allow it to be like, okay, this is what it is. It rides along in a very logical way, and it's a fun ride. It's very cathartic. And that is one thing I did want to mention is he did say that whenever it came to difficulty tuning, I'm sure this can probably be tweaked in the game, but he said that it felt like they had done some tuning and that the traversal aspect, the delivery aspect of 2 felt a bit easier. It felt like the getting from A
and I don't
to
have a problem with that.
Me either. He said that getting from A to B felt slightly less tedious.
Yeah.
Slightly less arduous. Like you didn't have to manage the trigger buttons quite so much. You didn't have to worry about tripping on rocks quite as often. He said it felt like it was turned down just a skosh.
I always thought, and of course I never really got to experience this to the point because you played it a little bit before I did, and then nobody else I knew played it, or at least not to an extent that I did.
It should be on your game list for what we're going to talk about next.
But I know they didn't have classic multiplayer, but the ability to leave equipment for people, I felt like there should have been a buff. Like if you decided to leave a ladder instead of pick it up because you thought, well, maybe I'll need the ladder later. I felt like if you decided to leave it for your friends, that you should get maybe like a +5 to traversal where it became a little bit easier for a certain amount of time or something to that effect. It kind of an RPG level.
You did get some thumbs ups and some smiley faces.
Oh yeah, that's true. But
yeah, every time you logged back on, it would be like, hey, you got thumbs. This person, this person gave you a thumbs up and a thank you for your ladder that you left out.
Yeah,
and you're just like,
and then, of course,
you're welcome.
There were the trolls. There were the trolls, of course, that left rappel ropes that didn't go all the way to the bottom on purpose. I love those guys. Thanks a lot to those guys. Where you'd rappel down, you're like, oh, this guy left me a rope, thank God. And you rappel down, and there's still 50 feet to go at the bottom. And you're like, son of a, oh, crap. Anyway.
Well, and that tuning, it also goes into the other thing that I wanted to talk about just really quickly. And that is he mentioned that the boss battles, while crazy and wild and just visually stunning and adrenaline pounding, just heart pounding, adrenaline pumping, he never died. And I was looking back on it, I was like, yeah, I died very few times in the first game.
Yeah.
And that after he mentioned that, I was like, that's another thing where, pardon my voice crack. But after he said that, it reminded me that, like, yeah, that was the thing that I didn't think about until he said it, where that's one of the impressive things is the fact that you very rarely had to worry about dying, even in these boss battles. There were a couple that got me, but usually they weren't actually going to kill you, but you still felt like they were. Your heart was still like in your throat.
Oh yeah.
Like you still had that very real feeling of about to lose. And he said they did keep that. They did keep that feeling, but the actual threat is
it was kind of like
about the same.
Oh shit, how do I use those grenades that they gave me a tutorial that I wanted to skip?
Or the worst feeling
that I skipped through because it was way too long.
The worst feeling is, as like we told people before, whenever you do this game, you become attached to the mission, and you're like, no, I've got to get pizzas to that observatory over there. And so, you get attacked by some like smoke monster, and you like the pizzas fall off, and you're like scrambling around, like, oh no, somebody
Smoke
needs
monster.
the pepperoni. Where did it go? And you're like scrambling through all this like tar to recover this pizza. It's like whenever you should be thinking about like, hey, let's try to not die right now.
I mean, it's seldom you find a game where you walk up on a conversation, somebody's like, yeah, so I'm swimming through 30 weight motor oil and I'm trying to deliver these pizzas that I got attacked by this fucking smoke monster. And I'm trying to drop this shit off to Pizza the Hut before, and it's a weird thing.
So yeah, it's wild. You become attached to packages, but can't recommend it more. But I just had gotten that bunch of information from Skill Up and his report back from everything. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm super excited about it. It releases next month, guys. Death Stranding 2 releases next month. Wow. So I'm excited. I'm stoked. But that's all I have now. So Jay has an interesting topic that he has wanted to touch on.
Right before I get started with that, I want to take this opportunity. As you know, I'm a huge fan of motorsports, and I'm also a huge fan of sim racing. And one usually goes with the other with most gamers. But so just a quick one, F125 launches at the end of the month. So super excited about that. Lewis Hamilton's on the cover, which you couldn't think of a better person. But the other thing was an announcement yesterday and a trailer that Forza Horizon 6's location has been announced.
Oh, I did not hear this.
It will be Japan.
Ooh.
So the motorsports community as sim race community, and to be fair, Tokyo. Forza Horizon's more arcade than semi, or what people call simcade. It's in Japan, and it looks like it's going to have the high speed street racing circuits through the Tokyo expressways that we saw in Tokyo Drift, and it's going to have what some people call drift, but Japanese people call it toge, which is the drift down the switchback mountains that you saw at the end of Tokyo Drift. That's going to be a part of it too. So you're still going to get the dirt and mud aspect of it as well. So it looked like they showed some outdoor trails through like areas with a bunch of temples and whatnot near Mount Fuji. So super stoked that is coming.
And Forza Horizon they kind of have a reputation of being super detailed in capturing the locales that they go to, like the kind of like the Assassin's Creed level of attention to detail.
Yes, very much so. And it's not, a lot of people have a hard time differentiating between Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon. Forza Motorsport is a lot like Gran Turismo, and Forza Horizon is a lot like, if you don't play Forza Horizon, it'd be more like The Crew,
or the Need Crew for Speed,
2, Need for Speed. I always feel like Need for Speed's more specialized to a very specific thing when it does one, but definitely looking forward to Forza Horizon 6 being in Japan. That's going to be exciting. But
I think that'll be cool. Like the streets of Tokyo, this neon futuristic looking city, that's going to be wild. And I'm sure you'll be able to do it during the daytime, during the nighttime.
Looking forward to getting that on the old wheel and giving it a go. But the topic tonight that I wanted to share first off is what I call unsung hero games. And these are games, if you look at the screenshot behind me, we'll get to that. That's my cornerstone one. But these are games that went completely under the radar, that might have had some bugs, but were severely underrated games that introduced features or feature sets that would become a standard in games like them moving forward. The first one that I want to talk about tonight is, and oddly enough, it's one of my favorite genres anyways, because I'm a huge James Bond nut, is From Russia with Love. This was a James Bond game that was released for the PS2, and I think the Xbox
360.
I guess the original. No, I think the original.
Was it? I was thinking it was 360 era.
I played it on PS2.
I'll manage to share this one.
Okay. Anyway, it was one of the first games, if not the first game, to not only feature the actor's likeness from the movie, but also the voice of the actor. And of course, since then, we've had so many games. We just talked about one, Death Stranding, where we have Norman Reedus as the character and as the voice.
You were correct. It was the original Xbox, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this was a phenomenal game. Was it GoldenEye? No, but it wasn't designed. It literally followed the plot of the movie. So we had some great Aston Martin race sequences, and then we had some train stuff. And I don't know if you remember the villain in this movie, but it was the same guy that played Quinn in Jaws. He was a lot younger. So But From Russia with Love is also my favorite James Bond movie, so that also helped. But the feature that I'm talking about, obviously, is using the actor and the voice of the actor in the game. And since then, we've had Lord knows how many games that have featured not only the voice but the actor's likeness in the game. And I'm going to
For
do
a
one
long
more.
time, that was a thing that they would shy away from. Like it was like the actors for whatever reason would be like, "Ew, no, like don't want to do it." It's kind of like with toys, where there would be like
Yeah.
action figures that would talk, but they would never. It was never the actor that did the voice for it. Tom Hanks famously has his brother that does all of his line work from his movies. So like his Toy Story stuff, if he has to do
Yeah.
voices for toys or games, it's Tom Hanks's brother. It's not Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
So
and that
yeah,
just
for whatever
and
reason, it used to be like a redheaded stepchild with voice work.
and apparently, according to Tom Hanks, it still is if he's going to farm that shit out to his brother. But I think we're seeing it. We're seeing an age now where so many actors are doing voiceover work.
Oh, some of them seek out these developers and say like,
I was
"Man,
gonna
I
say,
love your games."
Like Jack Black has done a bunch of voiceover work, I know. But a lot of actors are seeking out these roles, and we talk
Reeves,
about
Idris
Claire
Elba,
Obscure, Charlie Cox from Daredevil doing the Claire Obscure, one of the main characters, and John Bernthal in Ghost Recon Breakpoint plays the main bad guy in that, and it's his likeness in the game as well.
Well, like I said,
but yeah,
Idris Elba in Cyberpunk and Keanu Reeves.
Yep. But this was, I don't know if it was the first one, but it was one of the first where that, and I remember that because when they launched it, I was like, oh crap, they got Sean Connery, but they're not going to have his voice. And then they're like, with Sean Connery. And I was like, oh my God, gotta play this. So super excited about it when it came out. And I love the game. It played out great. And after this, they actually did Quantum of Solace with Daniel Craig. And they had Daniel Craig's voice as well. And, it basically took place with Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, but it was also a very good game. And it actually brought back the GoldenEye 64 version of multiplayer with the 4-player split screen, which I thought was cool. Then they did a remaster of GoldenEye with Pierce Brosnan, but it was Daniel Craig's voice. So it was kind of disconcerting to see Pierce Brosnan, but hear Daniel Craig. But anyway, I think it's cool that it was one of my favorite movie franchises that's responsible for this feature set trend. And I just wanted to bring it up as my first one tonight. I'm going to do, unless you have any comments on this one, I'm going to do one more before you. I know you have one.
I now have 3 after you talking about that.
Then you go. It's your turn.
All right. Well, so I will. Okay, in that case, I will go ahead and talk about one, and then I'll look for some screenshots of this other one to bring up. But I will put up Mad Max. So this is a game that released a few years ago. It was intended to release kind of alongside Mad Max Fury Road, but then the development actually ran a bit long, and it got released like the next year after it. And the game follows obviously Max, and you have the black on black, the very famous car that Max drives is taken away. He no longer has the black on black. He has to get another car, a clunker piece of crap,
and then upgrade it,
and then upgrade over time.
Of course,
you upgrade and
classic trope.
You upgrade. It's kind of Ubisoft like in the way that it works. You have to unlock areas of the map and stuff like that. But it's the gameplay. It was so underrated, man. The gameplay is fun. It is addictive to upgrade your vehicle, and it's the standard. It's the typical thing where as you upgrade, it's like, okay, well, I have this much. Okay, do I need to upgrade my armor, and then I can take more damage? Or, well, if I upgraded my exhaust, my acceleration could be better. Or if I upgraded my tires right now, I could maybe handle better. And you're like prioritizing which one is more important for what you're going to be doing. And it had super creative enemies they would have these camps that you could take down. It was really fun. And it integrated the story into the world to the point that characters that were in Fury Road were mentioned in, and one of them was present in the game.
So was it like a parallel plot game?
It was kind of an anthology. It did not actually follow Mad Max Fury Road, but it took place within that same world, and it took place before Mad Max Fury Road would have taken place. But and then one of the characters that was in the game actually did the briefest of appearances in what was the follow up, the Furiosa in Furiosa.
Okay.
So I guess this one is more. It maybe didn't do anything revolutionary as far as a specific gameplay mechanic, but the way that it brought them all together in this thing where it's like the discoverability, the unlockability of the map, the thing where you have to upgrade and you have to do certain things. So like you would have to upgrade your harpoon before you could take down these towers. Like, oh, this tower requires this level of harpoon, otherwise you can't take it down. This level of the scaling world where you have access to everything. You have access to this world, but you can't quite interact with everything yet. And it was this really addictive progression as you worked your way up through it. And it was such a brilliantly, I think the story was great in it. If you liked, because the Mad Max movie franchise is not exactly story heavy. The story is more implied than anything, especially prior to Fury Road. The Mad Max movies prior to Fury Road, the story is always essentially like, here is Max. Max comes across place bad. this person most bad in place. Max kill person, like that is the thing. And then Fury Road is, of course, one of the, cinematic achievement. Fury Road was absolutely insane. I love that movie so much. But
and it's weird because I heard nothing but great things about this game, and I ended up
nobody played
it. You're right, I didn't play it, and it's one of those, I feel like I don't want to go back to it now, but
you should.
Sometimes
it holds
I
up.
do.
It holds up.
And I don't remember what came out at the same time, but like a lot of games that we're going to mention, including From Russia with Love, there was a lot of other games that came out at the same time. And it was like, we're not all made of money. So it was one of those things where you picked what you could, you played what you could. You're right. So you miss out on some real gems when you're poor.
Well, I can say that you can probably find this game pretty cheap. It might even be on Game Pass now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I bought it again on PS5 a few months ago. It was on sale for like $8 or something like that. And I bought it and started playing through it again. And you unlock different appearances for Max, and also the combat just feels so good. It's not anything super complicated. Fights don't last long. But it's the kind of the Batman Arkham, kind of play of like punching and countering, but it feels so heavy. Whenever you land a shot, like you feel that shot that you landed. If you hit somebody with an iron pipe, man, it feels like you just rock somebody's world.
I love games where melee feels like melee and gunfights feel punchy, like you can feel the ammo coming out of
and this has both. You do have like a sawed-off shotgun that you can also upgrade. As it turns out, you can put up to 3 or 4 barrels on it, and it had a kick to it. But of course, given that it is in the Mad Max world, ammo is remarkably limited. But I got to the point where I just loved the hand-to-hand combat so much, I would just do that. Every once in a while, I'm like, okay, I need the gun to blow this thing up or that thing up. But I just enjoyed running up to some people and just clocking them. It just felt so good. It was so satisfying. So I had never gotten pulled into a game to that level that had that sort of format where it's like, okay, you can go here, but you can't do this because it's this level. Like, okay, so I need to upgrade this to get to that so I can do this. And it was one of the games where I wanted to do everything. It was like Black Flag, where it's like, okay, I'm in all these different aspects of it. I want to do all of it. I want to, you can clear out the map. I want to find all the treasures. I want to do all the things. I want to do all the side missions. And it was so it fleshed out so much of the Mad Max world, It was so
Right.
addictive. It was so well done. It was this perfect marriage of these game mechanics and the story, and it was not the story that you expected to get. I'll just say that. I'll just say I don't
That's
want
always
to
cool.
spoil anything, but it was you start the game and you're on a story thinking this is how the story is going to go, and it don't go that way. So I highly recommend. You can like I said, it still holds up today. You can probably find it for cheap on any market, especially if you're looking on Steam. It's probably dirt cheap on Steam. But even on consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, you can probably, like I said, it might be on Game Pass, but you can probably find it for a good price. But yeah, Mad Max, the video game, it was it 2015? I don't know. I think it was 2015, but it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's 20 on Steam right now, but it'll it's one of those games where I'm sure when they do a sale on it's probably like $4 or $5. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I'll try to find it and see what I can do with it.
That is my first hidden gem.
So my next one, I also found an honorable mention while you were talking
Unsung
about
Hero, not hidden gem. Unsung Hero.
Yeah, also a hidden gem.
Yes.
So my next one, we are going way back, and you might say, "How far are we going back?" And I say, all the way to PlayStation 1,
all the way back,
or what we just called PlayStation, which was G Police on the OG PlayStation. In fact, this was so long ago that the PlayStation 1 games were in the long case instead of the jewel case. Yeah, this looked like a video rental instead of a game when you tried to buy it. So G Police, in this game, it's obviously in a far future, and you remember this police unit that flies these, like, they're technically not helicopters because they don't have a rotary blade, so it's like a hover something, whatever you want to call it. I can't remember what they were. And you're in these domed cities because it's too dangerous to go outside these domed cities. But in this world, there's no more country-based governments. All the war, and this is the feature set that I think was a trendsetter, is that not so much in movies, because we'd already had movies where this happened, but never games, where the world is ran by these mega corporations. And you're flying these hovercraft, and no, the graphics don't hold up. But I got to tell you, the gameplay in this was legit, flying around and strafing in these. You felt really good when the missions were hard, but you felt like it was satisfying. And I love flying in games anyway, but when you got beat, you knew you deserved to be beat. It was one of those.
It was one of those where it always felt fair. Like as soon as you died, you're like, I know what I did wrong. I know what I did wrong that made that happen. Instead of being like, no, he can't do that. That's cheating. It's one of those where it happens. You're like, yep, I deserve that.
And it was kind of unforgiving in that crashing into things killed your vehicle like it should have, and you could get one hit by enemies that just got off a lucky shot, which is true to life. But I think the biggest piece to take away from a feature set is the fact that this was a future dominated by mega corporations, very, very Blade Runner-esque in this type of world. And man, I fell in love with this game. About the same time I was playing Wing Commander 4 with Biff and Mark Hamill, which was a space sim. But also this game right here, man, this was it. I love this game. I also, by the way, just saw you slide that picture in, and you're right, and we'll get to that later. But not going to spend a lot of time on this other than to say that this dominated a lot more in my PS1 time than I wanted to, because when you think about the PS1, I'm thinking Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, so many different Metal Gear Solid 2, so many different great games. Metal Gear Solid
2 was so good, yeah.
Oh man, and so many great games. And for me, this was one of those that, like, I'd go to school and nobody was playing this, but I'd show it to them and they're like, holy shit. And then they'd end up playing it. So anyway.
Was it level based? Or it was like different, like level to level?
It was level to level. You could level up your vehicle too, where you eventually had, like, you first started out with like dumb rockets. So you literally had to aim and nail it. You couldn't even get homing rockets at the beginning. So it was actually harder at the beginning than the end. But by the end,
how many times have we heard that?
Yeah, you're by the end of the game, you're flying this uber OP godlike vehicle.
But see, that's one great thing too, that whenever it's done well in games, that's one of my favorite things, is whenever you start off and you're like, man, I'm getting my ass kicked, and you're fighting and scratching and clawing, but it's so satisfying as you build up. And then these dudes that were eating your lunch whenever you started off, you're like swatting them away like they're nothing. Like whenever you like, that's the reward on so many. Like whenever it's done well, like that feels like the reward where you started off as this peon and you become this unstoppable beast, and you get to play this like power fantasy by the end of it.
And and not to get mystical and crazy philosophical here, but that's the human condition. We have to have struggle. We can't appreciate the good times without struggle. And I think in a lot of ways, these type of games, which I think that's the big draw for a lot of Dark Souls players, is that they feel like they've done something and they deserve the right to talk some shit when they beat this stuff. So this was a game that was like that. And so I really enjoyed it. G Police. If you can find that, good luck. If you have a PS1 and you can find a copy of this or a mod of it or something, good luck.
It would not surprise me if there was some kind of a mod, to like kind of give that some updated things. So
I found From Russia with Love while we were sitting here, and I downloaded it.
Where'd you find it? What storefront?
That's not
never mind.
Yeah,
it was for free. It was on the seas. It was on the high seas. So
on the dark web.
So whenever Jay was talking about From Russia with Love, because that's the thing is like some of these games you haven't thought of in forever, and you need something to jog your memory about it.
Trips it, yeah.
And that was why you were talking about. I don't even remember what it was that you said. Where I was like, wait a second, I know one. And so that is Sleeping Dogs, guys. This is one that I actually mentioned again. I'm going to drop it again on the GTA 6 trailer watch along that or slideshow. I mentioned in passing Sleeping Dogs, and Sleeping Dogs. There was a series called True Crime, and it was True Crime, and then there's True Crime Streets of LA, and it was basically
I remember that.
Yeah, it was basically a GTA-like game where you were the cop. So it was that formula. And then there was work on this other game, and it dropped the True Crime moniker, and it became its own thing, and that became Sleeping Dogs. And this
game was phenomenal, dude.
Yeah, it was on the original Xbox, and then the definitive edition released on the Xbox One, where had revamped
This was the
graphics.
one I played.
Yes, and if you are going to play any of them, make it this one for sure.
Make it this one for sure.
Got all the DLC, all that stuff, and it also had a bit of a troubled production.
It did.
It had some big Hollywood actors in as voice actors in the game for a bit, and then you're playing through the game, and all of a sudden these big name Hollywood actors that were in it, all of a sudden they stop showing up, and it's because of the sort of the constant changes that they had in the game. But despite the issues and the troubles that they kind of ran into throughout production, the game that we got was really fun and very underappreciated, and it had
unique.
And it had several aspects that maybe this one aspect was probably a thing, but this one kind of took it to a different level. And then there's another thing that I've never seen really at that point, and maybe not even since. But one of the things that it did, so the combat was great. So you got to do the sort of brawler combat, except your guy was actually a martial artist. So you weren't just like in GTA where you're just like a 1-2-3 combo or maybe a weak knee. Like this dude had actual skills. You could train those skills. You could learn new things, and he would change depending on your environment. So you would have this is one where environmental damage or environmental hazards were not new. That even happened in Mortal Kombat, but this made them feel like a Jackie Chan movie whenever you were playing through these things. You wouldn't have to do anything. Sometimes that's how a lot of people found out that it was even a thing, is they did it by accident. So then you could start saving it up. So you could start setting it up by like, oh, let me throw somebody against this thing and do an attack and see what happens. And usually you did something special, but a lot of times you could just be like doing something next to an ATM or whatever and do like a normal attack. And next thing you know, this dude's grabbing somebody by the head and shoving them into the keypad and trying to
I was going to say, and I don't think we would have had the Yakuza games if we didn't have Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah,
I don't know if you played any of the
yes, I
Yakuza
have.
games, but I don't think we would have had them if
But
it wasn't for Sleeping Dogs.
yeah, Sleeping
And
Dogs has the Yakuza vibe, just without it just doesn't do the zaniness that Yakuza goes off
yeah,
into.
Yakuza goes off on but I will say this too, is if you're out there and you end up watching this episode and you have a chance to play this, if you liked the show Woo Assassins on Netflix, I got very Woo Assassin vibes. In fact, I got Sleeping Dog vibes watching Woo Assassins. So
Yeah, the combat felt so clean and
visceral,
refreshing.
dude. It was visceral combat.
Yeah, and you felt like a badass. Like it's one of those things where it's like you start doing this stuff and then you feel unstoppable. So you're doing the thing where you put somebody down on the counter and then you jump up and you grab the little sliding shield and bring it down on top of them. You know, like I said, it's straight up Jackie Chan movie that you could do this with, and it was like addictive. That it was one of those things where you wanted to get into fights. You would like you'd like look around and be like, I bet this would be a good place to get into a fight. You know, and you'd start to.
Did you play Sifu?
Yes.
Did it remind you any of this? Yeah. Okay.
It was like this meets John Wick. Sifu, because you're in these very enclosed environments, but Sifu, you're grabbing pool cues and all that stuff and doing like that. Sorry, my bad.
I can't tell how many times Chad did that on the fuel pod. He would be.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
I pulled out I forgot though. I pulled out my headphones. I didn't make the microphone stops. I could have gone without that. But anyways, like Sifu, like the main crux, like what you needed to do in Sifu was use your environment. Like whereas this had the aspects where you could start to use the environment. Sifu, if you didn't use the environment, you were not getting through.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I had never seen in any game prior to this, and I don't know as if I've seen it in a game since, was if you do something like so many times, it's now less this whenever you play like a GTA game or a GTA like, where before it used to be a big thing where it's like, oh, get to this location and you'd have a timer and you got to get to this location by this time. And it was a pain in the ass. GTA, Driver, they all did it. And it was such a pain. This game, they would do that. But if you didn't make it, you failed the mission, game went on. It was like, okay, well, that's that. That character's dead now. You didn't save him. So moving on along. And the game went on. So if you failed a mission, you could choose to replay it. But if you didn't want to replay it, you didn't have to. And the story would go on with that mission in a fail state, which I have not seen since, really. Like most games do not do that. So this is one where it's like, oh, yep, you failed. You want to keep going? All right, cool. You're just not going to talk to that guy again.
Yeah, and like Witcher 3 had a couple of those. You could fail, or you picked the wrong side of an argument and you would fail and you got to keep going. I love it when games let you continue with your failure and make you live with it. Dude, this was what a great call. This might be one of the better calls tonight with Sleeping Dogs. This was ahead of its time. I really felt like it was.
I still want him to do another one. In fact, during, I don't know if it was the Game Awards or it was one of those game shows that come where they showed all the trailers where they did a game that I thought it was going to be Sleeping Dogs. It turned out not to be. I don't remember what it is, but I was thinking like it was going to be a Sleeping Dogs 2, and I got all excited because it looked very Sleeping Dogs like. Although the game that they did show looks like it's going to be very much kind of in a spiritual successor, perhaps, to Sleeping Dogs, and I hope it will be, because this game, again, it did not sell great. It
came out in an era when shooters were freaking king, and if it wasn't shooters, everybody wanted special powers
or the I mean, the reason that it was what it was because it was also a time when there was a lot of GTA likes. But that's the thing, is there were a lot of GTA likes, and you had Saints Row and this and that, and most of them sucked. But this one didn't suck, and it changed the formula. And unfortunately, because it was in a very dense competitive genre.
Yeah.
It just it drowns, and it went into obscurity, and it deserved so much better.
Yeah, the script flip that this game did was amazing. And dude, what a great call. What a good pull late.
Yeah,
Admittedly,
well,
that was a good pull late.
it was you're talking about. I don't, like I said, I don't remember what it was.
Well,
that you
that's usually
said.
what it takes. It's like you're sitting around, you're like, oh my God, how about this game?
I don't even remember what it was that you said, but you said something. I was like, oh, I got one.
Yeah. So my next one, are you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it for Sleeping Dogs.
So, you see all the, like, and I'm going to use the term, I get to use this now because I'm 50, but you see all the kids today and they play Apex and they play Overwatch and they play Fortnite, and the Battle Royale format is a great format. But I want to call back to this game right here. Now, this game is not these games, but it's in the same genre. So Shadowrun came out on the Xbox 360. You had 3 races you could pick from, an elf, a dwarf, or a human. But instead of giving you, and of course you see a guy with swords on here, but you also had guns. This was a futuristic fantasy genre where there were guns and rocket launchers, and still had swords and magic and all that bit. But what made this game great is it was fast paced, small map, and the way the maps were designed, and you had these portals and doors that eventually everybody that was left was in a very small, tight area. And it was basically Twitch shooting at that point. You were shooting at anything that moved, or swinging your sword at anything that moved. And I really think this kind of set the stage. This and a game called, and it broke the rules, so I couldn't mention it tonight, but Quake 3 Arena. That and this broke the rules and set the rule that would eventually become the Apexes and the Overwatches and the Fortnites that we know today. Such a great genre this was. And the funny thing is, growing up, I read Lord of the Rings when I was, I don't know, probably 11 or 12, and I got into comics, and then I got into graphic novels, and this was a graphic novel series that I was into called ElfQuest. And this has nothing to do with Shadowrun, although I think you can see similarities in the art design. But I was really into the fact that humans weren't the only sentient species in fantasy literature. So I got into Shadowrun, and this was weird because it was unlike the Shadowrun that I got you into, which was the RPG-based, typical turn-based, almost a tabletop inside of a video game. Tabletop inside of a video game. But this one was a shooter. For all intent, it was an arena, or what's the MOBA?
Yeah, massively online battle arena, or multiplayer online battle arena.
Yeah, so this was basically one of the original MOBAs, because like I said, you were in small maps inside the Shadowrun universe. It was cyberpunk. It was crazy, like a lot of dark Seattle rain type of deal. I think you said you actually played this one.
No. So that was I never played it, but I remember this cover. This cover was, I remember seeing this cover, and it's like an iconic cover.
Which is sad because it went straight to the bargain bin at GameStop.
Yeah, so I remember seeing this cover, but I never played the game.
But the sad thing is, this came out around the same time that the Rainbow Six Vegases were out. And if anybody that's really played Rainbow Six long, not just Siege players, knows that if it wasn't for Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2, there'd be no Siege. And unfortunately, those games and Splinter Cells and all those games drowned out this game. But again, this is why we have Apex and Overwatch and the games that a lot of people love today.
Yeah, and that's the thing. One thing that we keep, a kind of a common theme is like, yeah, man, would have been great, but it just happened to release around da da da. This is why you see so or game studios retreating whenever a game like Grand Theft Auto 6 or Oblivion or something announces like, hey, we're dropping this date, and you see people go, like, this is why. They don't want to show up on this list.
Yeah, which is sad because, again, these are phenomenal games. Yeah, and, it makes me mad. and for the record, where I was living in Florida at the time when this came out, and we did have a pretty good sized group. I'd say 7 or 8 people is a good sized group that played this religiously. We all worked together, so it was one of those things where it presented water cooler trash talking conversations the next morning, and those were always my favorite ones. But anyway, wonderful game, and I loved it. What do you got for me?
All right. Well, so this will be my final hidden gem, or sorry, unsung hero.
Yeah.
If anybody knows this one, I will be surprised. You have my. Let me know in the comments, and I will give you my I don't know, kudos. I'll give you fake internet points for it because this is crazy. I have ran into one person that knew this game whenever I brought it up, and that person was Cliff Blazinski. So I got the opportunity to talk to
Cliffy B.
Cliffy B. I was like, and I asked him.
Gears of War, man.
Yeah, exactly. The creator of Gears of War. I asked him. I was like, I feel like I'm being like gaslit that this game didn't exist. Have you heard of this game? And he's like, oh yeah. And he knew. He said like, oh yeah, this was the game designer. Da 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 da. And it was Shiny Entertainment that made this game. But that game is Wild 9.
Give me my internet points.
You have them, sir. 1,000 fake internet points for you.
Wild 9. Absolutely.
So this was the OG PlayStation. And I remember I was a little kid, and the way that I found out that this game was a thing was I still don't know why I got this. I don't know how I ended up on the mail list, but I got a package that was addressed to me. And being a child, that doesn't happen often. And of course, when you're a child and you get mail and it's for you, you get excited. It's just like thing. So I open it up. It was like I've seen many horror stories that start this way, where you get a package, it's got your name on it, you open it up, and there's a VHS tape, and it's like, okay. Yeah, it's like this is not good. But what it was a essentially like 20 to 30 minute like mini documentary about the making of Wild 9. And
Holy crap.
was I wish I still had that VHS. I wish I knew where it was.
I'll let you go, but I wanted to tell you the way I came into this was I subscribed to a magazine called, and yeah, magazines. Get over it, whoever's watching this. That's like
print media.
Electronic Gaming Monthly. We called it EGM.
EG Monthly, yeah.
All the cool kids called it EGM, but it came with a demo disc every month, and every issue had a demo disc, and one of the demos was Wild 9, and then I ended up getting the game.
So yeah, I watched that. This little VHS tape that talked about this game. It was, like I said, it was Shiny Entertainment, and they were a big deal back in the day. And I was like, okay, cool. So when it came out, I got it. And one thing that I had never seen a game do this at that time before. Like I said, this is OG PlayStation, and so I tried to find a actual screenshot of the game, but again, this is original PlayStation. Anything that I found was, I would be like, okay, so you see this yellow blob, and you see this purple looking string thingy going to the green blob. Like it wouldn't show anything. It's one of those things like Jay and I have talked about, like the way that you remember something looking and the way that you remember something playing. Like Oblivion, this remaster, this remake, it looks the way you remember Oblivion looking, or the Halo, remaster looks the way you remember it looking, but it didn't actually look that way. It looked far worse. So,
I've got a gameplay image, by the way.
Oh, go for it. See if we can make it out. Okay, so what I was wanting to show was the rig. So that was the thing that was so unique about this game. And so it's a side scroller. You can obviously look at we'll call it graphical fidelity that we're working with here. It was a side scroller, and I don't even remember your guy's name, but I remember that the weapon was called the rig, but he had this biomechanical thing, and it would shoot out, and that's what this thing here is on this image, is this beam that it shoots out, and you could grab enemies with it. Okay, that doesn't seem so crazy, but since it's a side scroller, one of the things that you see at any side scroller, Crash Bandicoot or anything like that, is you have to jump over environmental hazards. You know, there'd be these like spinning grinder
Right.
wheels or falling hammers. Well, with the rig, and since you could grab these enemies, you could do a few things. Once you grab them, you could slam them back and forth like, you know, Hulk whenever he grabbed Loki by the ankles, puny god, that
Yeah.
whole thing. You could do that if you wanted to, and you could get stuff that way. Or you could just carry them and take them to one of these environmental hazards. Like, okay, you got the little spinning spikes. Okay, drop them in there. Boom. You get this animation of, you know, alien blood splatter or whatever, or you take them over to the hammer, let the hammer come down on them, and you could just take them through this level and torment these characters, absolutely torture them with the threats that you had just evaded. And I loved it. I replayed this game so many times just because that was so fun and cathartic to just like go through there and then take these characters and just throw them into all these, try to find all the different things that would actually interact with the characters, find all the things that you could use to dish out pain and death to these characters. Sounds very demented, but it was a good time.
Yeah, it was yeah. I actually enjoyed the game very much.
You did. So you like, and then they did have something that was it was like Earthworm Jim did a lot, where they would have these races that you'd have to go to every once in a while for these levels where you would be like chasing somebody. But
well, this was made by the same guys that made Earthworm
yeah,
Jim,
so I mean, the DNA was there. Yeah, the Shiny made Earthworm Jim, and so this felt very much like Earthworm Jim in that it was very cartoony, very irreverent, obviously, but it was fun. I loved it. It's been one of my favorite games since I was a kid. And yeah, anytime I'd ask anybody like if they had played it, everybody's like, "Nope, don't know what you're talking about. You're making that up." But I'm not. I didn't. It's Wild 9. It's this. And I still love it. That game mechanic was so satisfying. It's the first time I ever experienced anything like that. And yeah, it should have been more.
Well, man, like so many countdown videos and videos with lists, I have an honorable mention before I get to my number one tonight. And my honorable mention is from a gigantic franchise. So it feels like it's not going to follow the rules that I set, but it also got overshadowed, and it had a feature set that became revolutionary in that
I'm so intrigued right now.
It followed an existing story, but went parallel with the existing story and still got to the same place. And that game was The Lord of the Rings, The Third Age, which was oddly enough, a Japanese turn-based RPG, or what was called a JRPG at the time because it was turn-based, in the vein of Final Fantasy, but with Lord of the Rings. And it followed a team that was basically a decoy team that was doing the same thing that the OG team of Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas were.
You were the replaceables.
We were the replaceables. In fact, there's a scene like right before you fight this Balrog right here, where you're on the bridge seeing the other team from the movie do the mission, and you guys are doing your thing, and then eventually, of course, you fight the Balrog. And I don't want to linger on this.
Is this like PlayStation 2 era?
This was PlayStation 2. You can still find it out there. I found a torrent of it, but it is a very cool game as well, and it has its own set of great characters. And oddly enough, they're literally cutouts from all. Like you have a wizard, you have an Aragorn-like guy, you have a Boromir type, a Gimli, and a Legolas type.
This actually reminds me of another Lord of the Rings game that is also a bit of an unsung hero.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like an action. It was like an action adventure game, and it had combat that was very similar to something like Assassin's Creed, in that you could parry, and then you had finishing moves that you could finish people off with. And so it was fun to get in there with Legolas or somebody like that, and do like these really big action sequences. I don't remember what it was called, and it's actually been delisted since then, probably because of license.
A lot of them have.
Whatever.
There's a couple RTSs, Battle for Middle Earth and Battle for Middle Earth 2, that got delisted, but they're also great. But if we didn't have this game right here, we wouldn't have had Shadow of Mordor and War of the Ring or whatever it was that got Game of the Year. I really don't think we would have had those two games if it wasn't for this game right here. So that's why I wanted to bring it up as an honorable mention. But my number one game tonight, because I love spy movies and heist movies. We've talked about this a million times, and I love RPGs, and seldom does those two things cross each other. And I mean pure RPG. Like if you took an Elder Scrolls game and made a spy RPG, what would it look like? Because we had Splinter Cell, and Splinter Cell's great. I love Splinter Cell. I love Siphon Filter.
But an RPG, it is not.
Neither one of those are RPGs where in the truest sense, where you start off and you suck. You don't necessarily hit all the things you're trying to do, and you've got to level up points and skill trees to get to those points. But this game, Alpha Protocol, gave you that. It was the first chance. Did it have bugs? Yes, it did. But
I gotta say, even just looking at this, and I'll be honest with you guys, I am not familiar with this game. Whenever Jay told me about this game, I had not heard of it before. But even just look, this poster would psych me up, because the first thing I see when I look at this poster is your weapon is choice. I'm like, oh, that got me. I want that.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, like, you can be the suave James Bond type when you're talking to like a girl, or you could try to be, professional, stone-faced killer, and it will have a different effect. And this game legitimately has an infinite number of endings. That's one of the things it purports, is that it has an infinite number of endings.
Now I'm very intrigued.
So you've got like 4 or 5 countries you go to, but you can literally go to a country, do one mission in that country, and then go to one of the other countries instead of doing it all the way out in one country. And when you do that, it changes the entire game. You play an agent named Michael Thornton. When you first start, you can pick like 4 different like class types, or you can pick what's called a freelancer, where it's basically a build your own. And then you have to pick recruit or veteran, but veteran is locked at the beginning. So you have to go recruit. But once you beat the game as a recruit, you can go back through as a veteran, and it changes the entire game.
See, I love those whenever the end of the game is really only half the way through.
Right.
Whenever you're like, okay, now I got to play through another time to really understand what's going on. Like, I love it. I love it when they do that.
The recruit playthrough is a straight up, basically a tutorial. When you go back through as a veteran, and like you go back to the very first mission, you're like, oh my God, you're like just popping guys, and you're a vet. All the conversations have different options now because you're a veteran, and the people you're interacting with know that. They can sense that. People can sense confidence or lack of. And
so it's really like it's another RPG element where, like, whenever you go through and it's like, oh,
yes.
this and people will respond to you differently because of your race or your background or whatever. In an RPG, they respond to you differently because you're a veteran as opposed to a rookie.
Yeah, and if that didn't sell you on it, the makers of this game was Obsidian, the guys that did Fallout New Vegas and have done hit after mega hit after mega hit.
Outer Lands, is that the
Outer Worlds?
Outer Worlds, maybe. Yeah, that they're working on a sequel to, which looks like it's going to be great. Yeah, Obsidian's they're great.
So it was one of those games that came out in 2010, and unfortunately, it came out. And I sent you that list yesterday. It was ungodly. It came out with Mass Effect 2 and God of War 3, and it had no chance.
Which means, since it came out amongst all those, it means that, unfortunately, I helped bury this game.
Yeah. I was one of the
because it was Mass Effect 2. I was all over Mass Effect 2.
I walked into back then. GameStop wasn't even GameStop; it was Electronics Boutique. I walked into Electronics Boutique, and they're like, "Hey, man, what do you like?" And I'm like, "RPGs." And they're like, "Dude, do you like spies?" And I'm like, "I love spies." And somebody talked me into buying this, and I bought it. And dude, it was one of the most difficult playthroughs I've ever done in my life, even on default difficulty.
I mean, since Obsidian is still around and they're still making bangers and they still know what they're doing, it's not like BioWare, where it's like, there's a company called BioWare, but that spirit, that energy just ain't there anymore. It's a shell. Obsidian's not that way. Obsidian's still got these people that are on the cutting edge. They know what they're doing. They love what they do. Have they even hinted or mentioned this game?
No, they have not. But I'll tell you, if you go into the comments on the Steam page for this game, you will never see more comments that say there's never been a game that's in more need of a reboot than this one.
Would love
The
that,
people,
man.
the people that love this game, and here's just a screenshot from the game. But you play an agent named Michael Thornton, and you're young and you're brash, and you start off trying to be a smart ass, but basically the game will humble you down as you play, and you meet so many different people, and you're trying to schmooze them, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just trying to take them out. So it lets you play in so many different angles. You have safe houses in all the locations you go to. You've got a handler that you can either decide to protect at the end, because it turns out that your organization may or may not be corrupt and you don't know, and it really plays on your naivety. You know what I mean? So it's one of the things where you have to start trying to piece together what you think the facts are.
Well,
And it will spin that on your head a couple of times. But dude, unbelievable.
I would take vacation days to play a game like this these days, man. Like
And I got to tell you, you could probably run it on your laptop, because it's old.
Well, I would like to see it nowadays, though. I'd like to see like an updated version, like where we have like the graphical, power and all that stuff. Like I would love to see Obsidian do this again, because you mentioned this, like where this had never been seen before. I don't think it's ever been seen since. I've not seen any sort of espionage RPG.
That's why it's my cornerstone game for tonight is Unsung Heroes, because not only is it unsung, it's still unsung. It's still never been done besides this. So
yeah, I would love that, dude, because like you said, the old sort of, because there was a time where the espionage game was kind of in its heyday. We had Splinter Cell and Siphon Filter and all those which Siphon Filter, I would love to see another Siphon Filter. And again, guys, if we could make that happen. But there was a time where there was all these games, but they all played differently. There's all espionage, but there was never an RPG. So you had to have an espionage thriller RPG where you're basically playing through an action game, which we get a lot, where like Metal Gear Solid or something like that, where you're playing the action sequences of the action game, but where you're actually the driving narrative force of that action game. To have both of those things, man, that would be incredible. I would love that.
Because I mean, you're basically building yourself up the way you want to be. And the funny thing is, like, if you decide, hey, I want to be the wisecracking gun guy, that's great. You can do that. You're going to suffer, though, in other areas where wisecracking gun guy doesn't work. And they're going to make you feel it. I know I
got to change your approach from situation to situation.
And I know I sent you a couple of videos, but you can literally go on YouTube and look up Alpha Protocol, the movie. And it will basically be a no commentary playing it out as a movie, which is cool. But I would actually tell you, pay the $15, download it on Steam, and try it out on you can play it with an Xbox controller and try it out, because it is freaking phenomenal.
So speaking of, like, if you were to go through and do the movie aspect of it, how long was a playthrough? How many hours would it take to do a complete playthrough?
It was, if you just did the story, I'd say probably 35 or 40 hours. If you were trying to be a completionist and get all the upgrades for your weapons,
60.
Probably 60, maybe 70. And then of course you're going to want to do another playthrough and see what it was like from the other angles. Brother, I'm telling you could drive to the house, just set a date, drive to the house. I'll just sit here and eat Doritos, and you can play through it on my computer. I don't give a shit. But it is that worth it, that I would just say, hey man, come over and play. I'll go do something else. Do what you want.
Well, I will say the graphics for the time frame that you were giving, judging by this one screenshot, but it looks like it's held up better than I would have expected.
Oh yeah, and it has. When I loaded it up from my Steam library last night, it actually even offered ultra wide as a resolution, which I could not believe.
Yeah, who
And
would have thought that would have been
that's
supported?
without mods. There's like 11 mods for this game, which is just an abysmal number of mods. But there's a reshader that gives it like an upgraded graphics package. You're not going to make it look like it came out yesterday.
Yeah, it's not going to look like
But-
Metal Gear Solid 5.
But no, but looking at this screenshot, to me, that's playable.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Is it looks like it holds up way more than I would have expected it to look.
Yeah. And like, so you have this, and they're not showing it in this screenshot, but there's this reticle when you're firing your pistol, and you can fire as soon as you put your crosshairs. But in true RPG fashion, it's not just a crosshair, it's a round. And if you wait till it circles all the way in and turns fully red, then it'll be a definite kill shot. But you don't always have that kind of time. But the more you level up, that thing will go quicker. Like as soon as you put it up, it'll go in. And and then there's very Jason Bourne like melee in it, which I thought was cool addition to it as well. But if you're not leveled up, man, you'll start that like knife move and and the guy will be like bullshit and fucking elbow you in the face and take you out before you even get started. And you're like, damn it. And then it's like reload, start over. But anyway, just a phenomenal game. And I wanted this to be my capstone one for tonight because it's one of the, if you gave me my top 5 games of all times that I would like everybody to play, this is going to be number one. I mean, number one. And that's saying a lot because I've played a lot of games, but this would definitely be up there.
Well, I'm definitely going to check this out at some point because, yeah, I am intrigued. And hopefully, everybody that's listening to this, hopefully you found at least one game that you were like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should look that up and check that out, see what I can do to get a hold of that. Because, yeah, this is looking at these, I would love to see at least some spiritual successors to these games, some aspects of these pulled forward because we just don't get enough of it. So, yeah, hopefully you guys also found some games, some concepts that you're intrigued by and you want to pursue and hope we can all just materialize or manifest some remasters or reboots, remakes of these games. That would be phenomenal. So
anyway, man, that's all I had.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for episode 13. This was a long one, but a fun one. And yeah, again, I just wanted to once again reiterate that we appreciate each and every one of you so
Absolutely.
much. It's been really rewarding to see. We're making changes constantly, and this last couple of weeks, it's been a lot of changes, a lot of trial, a lot of error. But to see the fruits of that labor pay off, and to see you guys pop in and stick around, it means so much. And it's been, like I said, one of the most rewarding processes that I've ever gone through, truly. And it's even though it's been rewarding, I've also had to use Jay as my therapist a couple of times, so I'm sure that bill's in the mail.
I want to send a big shout out to you, man, because I'm actually getting to watch this on your end from the same aspect of when we started the Fuel Pod and some of the same thoughts and, things that just weighed on me emotionally. And as you go through this journey and being part of it and seeing it after I've already been, over 100 episodes into something. And it's been cool to see, man. So I'm just thankful to be a part of it. So,
well, I'm super thankful for you
and all the work you've done.
Yeah, we would not have been able to get this far without Jay, his expertise in getting things going, because there was so much. I've been, like I said, I did my thing in radio, was where I got into this kind of concept. And then I always wanted to do a podcast and it just never happened and it got delayed. But we got in here. Jay's expertise in this, I would have had no clue how to get started on any of this without Jay.
Which is funny because my dream job of my whole life is I've wanted to run my own talk radio show. So here we are.
But we're growing together, guys.
Yeah.
We're growing together. And again, it's really great. We're trying new things. We're now chopping up the episodes so that we can get you guys some shorter form content so you can look at just the aspects that you like. So if you didn't catch it here, we'll get the segments throughout the week, and we're gonna try, like I did the watch alongs, it's a slideshow for the GTA 6 trailer. We'll do more of that, and it'll actually be a true watch along. But yeah, we're gonna do a lot of stuff. We're experimenting, but it's been really great to see you guys show up and support, and we thank you all so very much. So again, thank you to Whitney and Chad and JF and Otto for the subscriptions. And yeah, I just wanted to end on gratitude is all I wanted to say. So yeah, thank you. And Jay, anything else from you?
I do not, man. I just want to say thank you again, and good night to everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe out there, and have fun watching TV and playing games and watching movies.
All right. Well, we will see you pre-recorded throughout the week, and we will catch you guys live next Thursday.